Hello everyone, welcome back from spring break. Today we're going to talk about angles and how we can measure them in degrees and radians. Degrees you should be familiar with, but radians is going to be new. Alright, so an angle is in standard position when the vertex is at the origin. Okay, so here's our vertex in the picture sitting on 0, 0. And one ray is on the positive x-axis. Okay, so that would be your initial side that the picture is pointing to on our positive x-axis. So the initial side is where the angle starts. So I'll say it's the starting side. Okay, so that's this side right here. Your initial side is on the positive x-axis. It's where the angle starts. Okay, and then you've got your terminal side, which is the ending side. And that's this side over here. So you've got your initial side, which is where the angle starts, and then your terminal side, which is where the angle ends. If you look, there's an arrow showing which direction this angle is moving. Okay, so we need to talk about how angles can open in two different directions. So let me draw a little x and y axis here, and a second one. Okay. So we have to talk about clockwise and counterclockwise movements here. So we're going to talk about counterclockwise first. Okay, so counterclockwise, you will still start on the positive x-axis, so that is still your initial side, and it starts at 0 degrees. Okay, then we move through the first quadrant and we go to the top of our y-axis here, and that is 90 degrees. Then we keep moving through the second quadrant and we get to our negative x-axis here, and that's 180 degrees. Then we move through the third quadrant and we're on the negative y-axis. That's at 270 degrees. If you notice, we're adding 90 degrees each time because that's what each quadrant is worth. And then we move through the fourth quadrant and we end up back on our positive x-axis here. And we've gone all the way around, so that is 360 degrees. So we went this direction, up and around. So that is counterclockwise, which is when you have positive angle measures. Okay, then you can also go clockwise. Okay, so you still start on your positive x-axis at 0 degrees, but we have to move around our axes in the opposite direction. So instead of going up to the top and saying that's 90 degrees, we're actually going to go down through the fourth quadrant and say that we've gone negative 90 degrees on this negative y-axis. Then we're going to go through the third quadrant and we will be at negative 180 degrees. Then we will go through the second quadrant and we're negative 270 degrees. And then we move through the first quadrant and we end up at negative 360 degrees because we've gone all the way around just in a negative direction because we've gone down and around for our angle. Okay, so this is when you have a negative angle measure. All right, so using what we just talked about, we are going to figure out the angle measures for each of these pictures, like how big these angles are. notice which direction the angle is moving. So if you look at part A, our angle measure is going down and around. Okay, so we're going clockwise, which is going to be negative because we went down and around. Okay, now this angle is going through the fourth quadrant, through the third quadrant, through the second quadrant, and then into the first quadrant. It doesn't go all the way around because we have that 45-degree measure that says we didn't go all the way around, we stopped 45 degrees shy of all the way around. So if you know 360 degrees is all the way around, we did not go 45 of those degrees. So 360 minus 45 is 315. But since we went in a negative direction, this angle measure is negative 315 degrees. I'll move that over a little bit. There we go. Okay, for part B, if you look, our angle is going up and around. Okay, so this is going counterclockwise, which is positive. Okay, for this one, if we start at 0, if we go straight up, that's 90. If we go to the next axis, that's at 180. And this angle is saying we have gone 60 degrees more than 180. So if I do 180 plus 60, we get 240. So this angle is 240 degrees. Rewrite my 0 there, it looks a little funny. Okay, and part C, notice our angle is going down and around. So since it's going down, that's clockwise, which is negative. Okay, we have 0 here, and down at the bottom would be our negative 90. Well, this is saying that you are going 20 degrees past your negative 90. Now, personally, I think since this is going in the negative direction, technically that 20 should have had a negative in front of it. But we can say that 90 plus 20 more is 110. But since we're going in a negative direction, we're going to say that this angle is negative 110 degrees. All right, now we're going to kind of do the opposite. We're going to take an angle measure and sketch the angle in standard position. So for part A, we're going 40 degrees. Okay, notice that is positive, so that is going to be counterclockwise. Okay, so here is 0, here is 90, here is 180, here is 270, and all the way around is 360. Okay, so our initial side is always the starting side. Okay, so on the positive x-axis. Now we are supposed to go 40 degrees. Okay, that is less than halfway through the first quadrant. So I am going to sketch an angle that looks like it's less. No, that looks exactly half. Let me try that again. We don't want exactly half because that would be 45. We want less than half. So there we go. That's a little better. Okay, so our angle is opening up because it's positive. And we're also going to make a note how far away from the next axis it is. Okay, we're going to talk about how many degrees are in this gap right here. Okay, well, if we've gone 40 degrees into quadrant 1, that means there are 50 degrees remaining between our terminal side and that next axis, which would be 90 degrees. All right, part B. We've got negative 270 degrees. Okay, so since it's negative, that means we're going clockwise. So here's 0, then here would be negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, and then negative 360 would be all the way around. The initial side is always on the positive x-axis, and our angle is going down and around. Good thing is we already know where negative 270 is because I labeled it. It's at the top on our positive y-axis. But we just have to make a note that our angle is going down and around until it gets to that 270, or I should say negative 270 degree mark. Okay, so I don't have to say how far away from an axis it is because it's on the axis. And next we have 95 degrees. Okay, which is positive. So we're going to go counterclockwise. Here's 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360. Positive x-axis for the initial side, always. And then we only have to go 5 degrees past our 90 degree mark. Okay, so I'm going to say that's maybe here, because it's not far. We're going up and around, and we're going to say that between our angle, the terminal side, and the next axis would be 85 degrees, because we've only gone 5 degrees into that quadrant. Okay, so now we're going to talk about coterminal angles. Okay, co meaning together, side by side. If it's a co-operation, you are working together. So coterminal angles are angles that share the same terminal side. So they end in the same place. All right. For finding the measure of an angle between 0 and 360 degrees, that's coterminal with each of these following angles. So your goal is to get the number below 360. Okay, that's your first goal. So, to get 575 below 360, do I have to add 360 or do I have to subtract 360? Okay, so you're going to have to subtract. We've got 575 and we're going to subtract 360. Okay, and 575 minus 360 is 215 degrees. So after you have either added or subtracted 360, you're going to check to see if your answer is between 0 and 360. Well, 215 is, so that would be your coterminal angle with 575 degrees. So 575 and 215, they are coterminal. They would end on the same spot. Okay, for negative 356, I'm trying to get this number, 356, to be below 360. Now, since this is a negative angle, I need to add 360 to it so that I can start heading towards a positive angle measure. So I'm going to take negative 356 and I'm going to add 360. That gives you 4 degrees. So after you have either added or subtracted 360, you need to ask yourself, am I between 0 and 360? Yes, yes I am. So 4 degrees is coterminal with negative 356 degrees. Okay, here we have negative 210 degrees. In order to get between 0 and 360, I need to add to this because it's negative. I need to start moving towards a positive number. So we're going to take negative 210, add 360, and that gives us 150 degrees. So is 150 degrees in between 0 and 360? Yes, it is. Okay, now really quick, I'm going to give you one extra example. Actually, I might give you 2. All right, so here's D and E. I'm going to do a little bit extra here. Okay, I'm going to pick, let's say, 972 degrees and negative 429 degrees. Sure, that sounds good. Okay, so 972 degrees. To make the number be in between 0 and 360, I need to start subtracting because it's just too big. I need to make my way down in between 0 and 360. So I'm going to take 972 and subtract 360. Okay, 972 minus 360 is 612 degrees. Now, is 612 in between 0 and 360? No, it's not. So you need to subtract again. We've got 612 and we're going to subtract 360. And we get 252 degrees. Now, is 252 in between 0 and 360? Yes, it is. So 252 would be your coterminal angle with 972. Now, technically, that 612 degree angle is also coterminal with them both. It just didn't meet the condition of being between 0 and 360. All right, negative 429, we're going to have to add 360 to start making our way towards a number that's between 0 and 360. So if I add 360, I get negative 69. Now that is not in between 0 and 360 yet. So I need to add again. I've got a negative 69 and I'm adding 360 again, which would make 291 degrees, which is in between 0 and 360. Now, like I said before, 291, the negative 69 degrees, and the negative 429, they are all coterminal with each other, but the 291 meets the condition of being between 0 and 360. The negative 69 degrees does not meet that condition.